Good morning. Buenos dias, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here on behalf of DHR Global, Gerardo Macias. And today we have a really interesting and fun conversation about succession planning, leadership, governance with four amazing leaders in Latin America and also related to global business for sure. So thank you for being here. I'll just make brief introductions. We have Maria Jose Trevino. She's the country manager for Acclaim Energy. Thank you for being here. We have Rodolfo Junco. He leads a family office in Monterrey, Mexico, and he also leads companies in Australia and the US. And he'll talk more about it in brief. Simon Cohen, he's the CEO of Henco Global in Mexico City. Also, he is on Shark Tank Mexico. And we have David Morgenbesser. He is one of our partners for leadership consulting at DHR. So thank you for being here, guys. Would you like to add something else about yourselves? Maria Jose?
No, well, thank you so much for the invitation. As you mentioned, I lead Acclaim Energy, a U.S.-based consulting firm focused on energy procurement strategies, and we founded it in Mexico about 8 years ago upon deregulation, managing around $3 billion annually in energy spend for our clients. I sit on both public and private boards in different markets, different industries, and I am also a member of an entrepreneurial family, a business family, I would say. So thank you for having me, and I hope this conversation is of value for the audience.
Thank you. Rodolfo, would you like to go next?
I'm happy to be here among a distinguished panel and also hoping for a very productive conversation. So we as a single family office, we focus on direct investing, mostly outside of Mexico. And so just a privilege to be here among you and hoping to learn something myself as well.
Thank you. Simon.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Simon Cohen. I'm the founder and CEO of Henco Global. We are a global logistics company, but very, very focused on happiness and, being fulfilled and having a fulfilled life. I'm also an author. I have a book, and I am a professional public speaker. I love, engaging with the audience in regards of having a fulfilled life and being a high performer while having fun with what you do in life. So it's a true honor to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation, Gerardo. And I'm humbled to be here around these rock stars in this panel. Thank you.
Thank you. David, anything else?
Yes. Hi, everyone. David Morgenbesser. I am a partner with DHR Global in our leadership consulting practice. I do a lot of work with clients around succession planning, specifically in the family office. I'm based out of Miami. So mostly with USA companies. I have worked with one company based out of Mexico, but I think from a best practice perspective, in terms of succession planning, there's a lot of things that translate globally. And I'll say, Simone, I did buy your book before this. I have not finished. I'm on a couple of chapters through, but I'm enjoying it.
Thank you. I hope you like it. I would love the reviews afterwards, please.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. And for the audience, feel free to, make any questions, comments. This is an interactive session, and this is for you. And for us to learn together, also to talk about purpose and leadership, of course. So let's get into our topic today. Why don't we dig into, in general, opportunity for family offices and family-owned businesses in Latin America. Let's hear first from you, Maria Jose, about what you've been doing, especially with family-owned businesses, and also we have to talk about your role as a woman, CEO and board member. I think that's something that we need to talk about more.
Sure. So, I mean, opportunities in general, I think there's so many. I mean, in Latin America and Mexico, I think the concept is blooming. We have so much to learn from other regions around the world. And I mean, I guess our type of family business are very linked to the operations of the region. We're very influenced by the trade agreements. We're very influenced by the regional integration that we have. There's a lot of opportunity in terms of corporate governance, I think, because typically what I see is we're inclined to start out by relationships, start out by our friends, start out, and it's fine. Don't take me wrong. We have to start somewhere, but we have to start professionalizing the way that we make decisions, the way that we establish accountability, the way that we do ensure the continuation of businesses and mitigation of risk throughout generations. Definitely, I think it's been a challenge, or we see challenges faced by women in terms of being involved in corporate governance. And it's so important, just because so many families have women on their own, in their own groups and families, and they're influencing investment decisions, they're influencing consumer decisions, they're influencing so much that these perspectives are so valuable, just in the diversity sense, that I think it's worth a good conversation around.
Thank you. Thank you. I see the rest of you thinking. Rodolfo or Simon, David, would you like to add something else?
I was just going to say, Maria Jose, in terms of having relationships, it is such a huge part of it. And no one is ever saying take that part of it away from succession planning and family offices. I think that is just where, and this is just broad experience of working with family offices, is there's kind of intrinsic bias that comes in play when you do it that way. So you want to bring in relationships, especially when it's family office run. But I think even when it's bringing in people that are trusted to the family or outside advisors, it's important to kind of understand and map out what it is from a succession planning perspective, like from a leadership behavior standpoint, a competency standpoint, and then looking at those people who are close to the family do they have what it takes, and just kind of really building out a heat map for what that looks like. So that's one of the things that I see is, where do you draw the line between these are people I know really well, and I know they're good business leaders, but are they right for my business in terms of succession planning?
There you go. Yeah, because for sure, all of you, in terms of succession, you want for the business to transcend. So can you talk a little bit more about that? And also, I mean, the three of you have different leadership styles, and of course, very different businesses. So how have you done it, in terms of succession governance, and also being, quite close to the business?
You go, Rodolfo, and then I'll join you.
Thanks, Simon.
My pleasure.
Personally, I'm a huge fan of the 3-circle model. So you have the 3 circles of, family, ownership, and business, and then they overlap. So there's 7 distinct sections of where anyone can be. And then once you encompass who's on which section is basically where you can define, okay, so this person is coming from this section. So his interests or his or her interests are regarding, something very specific. And that's how you can actually try and address those concerns, and then bring about like a medium or a forum to address those concerns. And then once I think you figure out those pieces, it's more of a sort of a process approach versus a personality approach. So, and I like that very much, because you get, genders, levels of education away, all things that can sort of muddle the conversation. So I think that brings clarity, one, and then, once you have clarity and everyone's more of on a similar page or channel, you can address sort of the concerns that every stakeholder has. So again, I'm a huge fan of that 3-circle model from Davis at HBS.
Guys, you were frozen for a while. I didn't hear the rest of the explanation from Rodolfo. Can you hear me well now?
Yes.
You were frozen for a little bit. Sorry. Okay, so in my point of view, family business have a great opportunity to transcend if and only if they have rules. Okay, if we set the rules correctly for the next generations, then we can transcend. A family model is based on many people. There's different profiles, and you have to understand that each and every single person has their own style and their own characteristics, so they can do that they can be beneficial for the family business. But we need to have empathy. We need to be empathetic with the rest of the people, because arrogance is the main reason that companies die. When family businesses start being arrogant, and a person within the family business starts being arrogant, there's where everything starts to collapse. You can see the biggest empires like the Romans and the Greeks and all these great empires, when they felt that they were the one and onlys and the one with the reason and with the full word, that's exactly when all these empires start collapsing. Within the family, what we did, we set the rules. We decided to put all the rules, whether or not you like it, those are the rules. And if you play by the rules, you cannot score a goal with the hand, right? In soccer, for example. These are the rules. And whether you like it or not, these are the rules. And then everybody has to be, empathetic with the rest of the people. And you have to be, you have to take, let's say, a stand on what you want, on what you believe that it's correct. But then you have to believe that other people, they also want the best for the family and for the family business. So it's very important that if we want to transcend, we set the rules, we set the tone, we sing the same song, we dance with the same music, but also we respect each other. We need to have trust and respect. We need to believe that the other person is also doing the best effort, for the benefit of the family business. And sometimes we will fail, for sure. Sometimes we'll have problems, for sure. Sometimes we'll have big challenges, for sure. But it's better to work together than separate. In my case, I started this logistics business, which is right now, and I'm humbly saying it, the biggest logistics company in Latin America. And for us, it was very tough to decide whether we wanted to be millionaires or to have a family office altogether. And we had to give up something. There's trade-offs that you have to give in order to have your family together. And we decided to do that. And when we started the business, I spoke with my brothers and my father. He passed away like 4 years ago. And we said, listen, guys, if we want to be strong, we have to be stronger together. If we work on our own, it's going to be great. You can be millionaire, you can have a lot of money, you can be very successful. But what about family? In Latin America, I believe that the family values are huge. And we are, I would say, not in a bad way, but in a different way. We are totally committed with families still. And I believe that's the right path to go within our areas.
pure wisdom, I would say. Simon, thank you, and Rodolfo. And you know what? When I thought about this panel, that's why I reached out to all of you, because of your leadership style, and you're known also to be humble people at the end. So that's definitely important. And we have a related question from Daniel in Monterrey. You can see it on the screen. How important it is to be able to keep healthy relationships while businesses grow and people prosper. Maria Jose, would you like to add something about this? Because you're also quite closely related to your family business and also being a board member in other companies.
Yes, I think what Simon mentions on the rules is the most important thing. Getting the person who started the business to develop these rules or to define the values for the family, and getting that buy-in from the whole family, that aligns us and that keeps relationships healthy, because it sets expectations and there's transparency and we're all working for one same thing, right? I think it starts with this, outlining the family values, the visions, policies for ownership and operation, decision making, and conflict resolution, to ensure that continuity, right? Family dynamics is really, really important, even when you have in front of, especially when you have a professional board. I think that just sets the tone for everybody to be contributing in one same way. Because yes, we all have different personalities, but we all have to be aligned with the vision of the founder and of the family. So I do think that's really, really important. It also helps with succession planning, right? And I think one of the main challenges that we have is succession planning delays, right? We need to start the conversation early. There's really not planning early enough is important. It should be a challenge there, and it's an ongoing conversation to be able to maintain these healthy relationships within the family. It's not a last minute decision. There's different stages, and I think from the beginning, just having everybody understanding is key. And I like to use I like to use an example. In one of the boards, I said when I started out several years ago, I interviewed different members of the family, and one of the people there said, my first board was when I was 7 years old. And what do you mean when you were 7 years old, right? And yes, when I was 7 years old, my grandfather would invite us to, put cookies out there, to do anything, but basically profiling, right, the family. And that's the succession planning, and those are the conversations. They were actually setting time aside to be able to sit down and develop in front of everybody this methodological process to be able to get to an end game there.
Oh, wow, that's a really great example. And not every leader thinks about that, teaching early, within their children or their relatives. I think that's really interesting. And also thinking about Latin America in general, because of our culture, I guess. Rodolfo, Simon, how has it been for you guys? I mean, Simon, you touched a little bit about it, talking about your brothers and your dad. But Rodolfo, from your experience, how has it been, within the family-owned business and also creating your own businesses, having that freedom, to do so?
Yes, I mean, I agree with Simon and Maria Jose's comments, and I think the common theme here is obviously communication, clear, transparent, and open communication, and opening up the right channels of addressing concerns from the family business, from either management or the board or the board. And that's why, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, but I can't stress enough, for me, how much of a difference the three circle model I mentioned earlier is. Because when I always go and sort of delineate who is where, I can actually, move the conversation towards addressing those specific concerns and seeing what's the right forum to address those, without, having the risk of either, people operating the core family business, mingling with family issues and other types of things that can get intertwined. So, and, address, again, to an earlier point that Simon made about, Latin America having very strong family values. Sometimes that, that can sort of, permeate into the company and, bring some other, second order effects that you have to address as well. So in the end, clear, open communication and just trying to strike the right balance between that is super important, super critical. Again, governance as well, having the right governance mechanisms, not only for the family business or the core business, but for the family office as well, or if there's a family charter as well. Again, setting the rules, as Simon mentioned earlier. Lots of common themes here that I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Sure. I will just build up on top of what you said, Rodolfo, if you allow me.
Sure.
Please, Gerardo. Family businesses are usually destroyed by conflict. The conflict resolution, it's not in there in the bylaws, right? So in the family protocol, what we need to do is how to solve the problems, because we only have one bottle of energy every morning, right? Like this one. They give you 100 milliliters of energy, and you only can use it for building or destroying, nor you cannot use them for both. So you have to understand that if you're fighting, you cannot produce. If you're fighting with your brother, which are the most complicated fights because they know where exactly to hit you and what hurts the most. And if you're fighting with your cousins and with your parents, that's exactly when you waste all your energy. And energy cannot be, how do you say, constructed or built. Energy is only transformed. So where do you want to put your energy? Whether you want to put your energy in building, constructing, being creative, producing, or you want to put your energy in fighting and, telling people that you're right. So I think that we need to be inspirational for the next generation. We need to put everything together to show them that we love each other, that we respect each other, that our differences are our strengths, right? What makes us different is what makes us stronger. And that's exactly what we have to tell the next generation. And again, the most important value for me in family businesses, because if you have a family business, you have a family office, it's humbleness. If we don't have the feet on the ground and the eyes on the stars, we have to be, ambitious, but we have to be humble. Ambition without humbleness is poison.
Mm.
That's exactly what we have to teach our kids, because the next generation, they usually, grow up, in abundance, and that abundance can be poison. So we need to teach them how to work hard, how we started, tell them the story of how we started, our parents started, whatever, if this is the first generation or the second, how we fought to get what we have right now, whatever that is, if it's a lot or it's too little. We need to teach them how to fight, how to work with respect, with humbleness, treating people the right way, taking care of your employees, treating them like parents, like brothers, like mothers, like sons, because everyone is a father, a mother, a son before being an employee. So that's exactly what I believe that family businesses will transcend.
Thank you so much. And we have a related comment from Ceci. We get all of this, and I agree with Ceci. Why is it still so difficult to talk about these topics with board members, with owners? What are you seeing right now? I do see a positive change, but still very slow.
I can jump in if I may. This is truly a fantastic question, because it's, one of the main objectives of a board is, CEO compensation and succession planning. And this can't be stressed enough. And I think, to one of the earlier topics on the panel about one of the main opportunities for Latin America is, I think it's actually around that topic. It's succession planning, because most or some of the big corporations that are also publicly listed here, if you look at sort of the board dynamics and the governance, they actually behave like a privately owned companies in some ways. Not mentioning any names, but yeah, probably will strike a chord with many of you. And that if you think about it, that in reality shouldn't be the case, because it's actually unfair to the minority shareholders. So, but that's probably a different panel.
It
But
is.
going back to to the succession part of it, why is it so difficult, Cecilia? Because I think it's so intertwined and interlinked with strategy. And again, another big opportunity for Latin American companies is talking about long-term strategy. Like what's the 5-year plan? What's the 10-year plan? Is there a plan for that? And then what sort of capabilities do you need to build up inside the company to get you there? And sometimes, either your actual CEO or the people, under that you have or you're trying to develop, they don't have the capabilities yet that you need. So you either need to talk with someone at DHR Global to help you with that, or, try to find out how you can, develop those skills and capabilities. But, again, it's so intertwined that it's actually very challenging and very difficult. So it's not easy. Obviously, there's approaches to broaching on that subject and developing that. But again, it's a big challenge.
I'd like to add, compliment something there. It's very different, just the way companies operate. If they're small, if they're business, if they're public, if they're private, if they're big, if they're multi-million-dollar, if they're smaller, it just depends, right? And you mentioned big companies in your comment. We truly don't know, if you're not close to the families, what's actually transpiring behind closed doors. That's really, really important to say. We might believe that they're not doing anything, but they are. And they're probably preparing their family members as shareholders to be able to invest, to manage. There might not be a very clear succession plan, but that's a lot, I think, around the strategy that each company is taking in terms of communication, because it might set, there might be uncertainty in terms of whether they have or they don't have a succession plan, but there might be even more uncertainty if they communicate improperly. And it's a long process. There are different stages. Things can change. So I think that's really important to understand when they're large companies. When they're smaller companies, if it's a first generation, if it's a second generation, I think it's very hard there's resistance to that professionalization. Some resist external leadership coming in and giving feedback and trying to establish professional corporate governance. Getting the head of the family to accept and to open up about these things is really important, and it's really hard. Many times, we as people, we try to avoid these conversations because they might be hurtful. They're not what you expect, or they can go a different direction with one child, with one son, with one daughter, it's not what you expect. So I think it's very challenging, and it's so important. So setting up the time to formally speak, taking a trip, a quarterly session, a yearly session, going in, just going in a nature expedition, whatever it is that works for your family, just set the time up so that everybody can know that that's the conversation we're going to have at that time, and to start developing it.
Yes, and for me, the biggest challenge is to understand when to start doing this, because family businesses in Mexico, they start, or in Latin America, they start small. And when they start growing, they're very busy operating the business that they forget about building a family legacy or a protocol or whatever you have to do in order to set the rules and set the tone. So suddenly you are operating, you're the entrepreneur that wants to be a business person. In Spanish, we say to evolve from being an emprendedor to being an empresario, from being an entrepreneur to being a businessman. So when you have to change your mindset, it's exactly where you have to press the button. But sometimes we're too busy doing those things that we forget about the most important things for the future of this company, that is, setting the rules and setting the tone. For me, the biggest challenge when I was building my company was to understand whether I wanted to be alone or whether I wanted to be together with my brothers and my father. It's a tough decision. It is a very tough decision because we are complementary teams. What they do great, I am terrible at it. What I do great, they are not good at it. Okay? So we can complement and we can be stronger together if and only if we have the communication, we set the rules, we align our interests, and we understand that together we're stronger than separated. And that's exactly where family businesses succeed or fail, because sometimes egos are just running the agenda, and that is not good for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's dig into any other challenges. I'm sorry, that family-owned businesses face for succession planning. I mean, we already started talking about it, but any others that you've seen? Also, David, with your recent experience, what I've seen mostly, again, in Mexico, specifically Monterrey, Mexico City, Guadalajara, is the broader knowledge about family offices and family committees and the rules for that. But definitely we have many other challenges. And also, let's think about the technical challenges and politics going on right now.
I think Gerardo would all everyone has been spot on in terms of what the family office dynamic looks like. And I think this is where, especially in the US, having an advisory board and people that aren't part of the family that have experience in mediating and providing effective feedback, that's the hardest part. And this isn't only for family offices, is even in corporate settings of publicly traded companies, is how do I give effective feedback? And to Simone's point, I've never won an argument with my brother, and my brother has never won an argument with me. But in a business setting, and this is a company I worked with, it was a beverage manufacturer out of Colorado. It was 3 sons, kind of almost a competition, but we were able to sit down and think about what are the behaviors required, what are the skill sets required, and they all ended up in different positions, with one becoming the CEO of the future. And they were all happy with that because there was transparency, there was trust, there was external factors in place to where it made perfect sense of how it all kind of unfolded from there. But when I've seen it fail is there's a lack of understanding of what it takes, and then someone is selected or someone from the outside is selected, and then it becomes an issue.
And it's for sure easier when there's abundance, right, David?
Of course.
And when there's abundance and when there's money, and then you can pay the CEO very well.
Yes.
You can give them good salaries. It's easy. But what will happen when things go wrong? What's happening in companies, in family businesses, when there's a crisis, when there's headwinds? What will happen is that there will be conflict. And if you have the rules correctly set,
Yes.
You understand that you can follow a certain protocol to just reach an agreement. And if there is empathy and there's a proper conflict resolution process, then you can thrive. The most important thing is that you put your energy when there is production, when there is creativity, because we only have a certain amount of energy. Don't waste your energy fighting, if and only if you want to maintain the family business. And those are my 2 cents. And abundance in business, it's a blessing and a curse. Okay, a blessing because everybody's wealthy, everybody can, collect their money, there's dividends, everybody's happy. And a curse because people think that happened by, just magically. Like suddenly there's a lot of money, then you can split all the profits. And no, that's not true. You have to institutionalize companies. You have to set, the next goals. You need to have a growth mentality. I always tell my people, you have to dream big. If you don't dream big enough, you will never be there. So you have to just shoot for the stars and always, put new goals, because the day you stop growing, you start dying, right? So that's exactly where family businesses collapse.
Yeah. And we actually have recent comments and questions from the audience. Thank you so much. Let's not forget about regulations in different countries. So maybe, Rodolfo, you can talk a little bit about that. And definitely this recent comment from Carlos about women leadership and how we can ensure that we have women leading companies and leading a board as well. So let's talk about that, Rodolfo, and then, of course, Maria Jose.
Yes, obviously, regulatory concerns and, everything encompassing sort of the ESG elements and, human safety are paramount, especially in all our companies and all our boards we serve in. One of our main points, especially in manufacturing facilities, which is the one I participate in Australia, safety is our number one priority. And as a board, safety, when we say that, we mean that. And that's our number one KPI for all of us. Obviously, as far as the regulatory aspects, we obviously want to be well apprised and well advised on the compliance aspects, the regulatory aspects of everywhere we participate in, but also being is how do we embed ourselves in our communities? How do we serve better? And we try to include all the, social and governance and the environmental concerns as a board as well. So we have KPIs around that as well. So we try to look at that holistically because we think, in the end, everything will permeate and it'll basically, we try to measure ROIs against that, but our main ROI is, if we serve our communities well and our consumers well and our clients well, we'll do well. So that's sort of one of our main sort of topics or themes.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Maria Jose.
Sure. So this topic to me is so interesting. I mean, just to set the tone in terms of statistics, as of 2024, women occupy in Mexico approximately 13% of board seats in public companies. Okay, there's a lot of statistics out there. IMCO, Women 50-50, WCD, Women Corporate Boards. They all have analysis around this. And 6 years ago, I started my first public board, and we were 3% of women independent directors. Only 3%. And now about 5%. This is for public companies. But let's understand that in Mexico and Latin America, the majority of them are private companies and family-owned companies. So it's even that 3%, that 5% is very, 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 very small. And we don't have that number. The majority, 7% of companies have at least 30% of women on board representation, and 1 out of 4, more or less, have only male representation. So that creates a big opportunity because we know how diversity creates value, financial value. And I think there's cultural, bias. We know that, especially in this region. But when we talk about value and numbers and money, that's what we should also strive to get to in order to make decisions of incorporating diversity on boards. I think there's this cultural aspect, this is unconscious bias remaining a challenge, which leads to this lack of representation in decision-making roles. And we need to actively seek that gender balance. There's a lack of prepping women. There's this lack of prepping also, I think, in turn, make women not sure of the decisions that they're making because they might not understand risk. They might not understand, the operations of the business because they haven't been exposed enough. They haven't been prepared enough. They don't have this education to be able to make informed decisions, or they feel that they can't make informed decisions. So, and women have less access to networks. And I really do think that companies should establish mentorship programs, equal pay policies, ensure women have a seat at the table. It's a process. There's policies that needs to be involved. And obviously we're talking about company-wide and then family-wide, because we need to understand there's a lot of women in our family, and in future generations, we will have women, right? Representation. So between women, we typically don't talk about money unless you're in a business oriented environment. It's very interesting. There's few women who you speak money with, investments with, and I think that's a very strong challenge, because that's where we see that women need women mentors sometimes, right? I only had male mentors my whole professional career. I did have a couple of women to talk to, but only male mentors in general. So I think it's very, very important to bring these female perspectives, fostering that more of a balanced thought leadership. And one thing, UBS has a whole bunch of very interesting statistics. I've done some mentorship programs with them for female entrepreneurs, and it's so they really highlight how women have to understand how to manage wealth, because that ensures proper development and continuity of family businesses and family wealth in general. I mean, women live 5 years longer than men. Nearly half of marriages are likely to end in divorce. 8 out of 10 women are solely responsible for end up solely responsible for their finances. So we really need to educate, prep women to be able to participate on these boards as a meritocracia. It's all, we need to remove the gender bias and just ensure we're talking about personalities, characteristics, prep, experiences to add value.
Totally. Yeah. And Maria Jose, this is a very important topic for me, because I have 3 daughters. Rodolfo and Simon, you have daughters as well. So as well. So what are you thinking right now? And how do you deal with that dynamic today?
In our household, we are all the same. We have 3 daughters and a boy, and we are all the same. I tell our daughters, you have the same opportunities as your brother and as your mother. And my wife just recently got her executive MBA. She's doing a course on boards. She's probably going to be joining her family business board as well. And I'm the most proud husband. And for our daughters as well, I think she's a great role model for our daughters. And they're also sort of keen on, embracing the fact that, the world could be their oyster and that they can do whatever they want. And I can't be happier with that sort of mentality. Obviously, for us, it's more of, guidance and education more than anything. But in the end, they're going to be their own person with their own decision-making prowess and, everything that they want and can do. So I'm all for that.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Let me just tell you that I have 3 daughters. And since they were like teenagers, I always tell them that there's 3 baseball caps that they should wear or know how to, wear. The first one is to be an employee of the family business. You can like it or not. It's okay not to like the business. I am in the logistics industry, and moving containers is no fun. Like literally, it's boring and it's stressy, and the amount of stress that we have is terrible. There's the open heart surgery doctor right here, and right below that mark, we are there. Like literally, the stress is top notch. And if they don't like it, it's okay. But they need to understand if they want to be an employee of the family business or not. The second one is to be a shareholder. If I die, they will own the shares, okay? So you need to understand how to be in a board, how to read, the financials, how to read the statements, how to understand the top decision in business or not. But you need to understand how to be a good shareholder, right? And the third one is how to be a good person who inherits the money from their parents. You need to have, discipline not to waste what we have built with so much effort. I mean, these 3 different roles that they should learn how to do are very, very important in order, to keep the transcendence of the family business. You can or cannot, play a role in the company. Okay, check. But you cannot hide of being, a shareholder or inherit some family wealth. And that's exactly where we have to work a lot with my daughters or my sons. I don't have sons, but in case I would have had male members in my family, I would have told them exactly the same. Guys, you need to learn how to manage a board, how to have a company that it's totally institutionalized, how to, set the goals for the rest of the people. But there are 3 different roles. So we need to learn how to play in those 3 different roles.
Great example. Thank you, Simon and Rodolfo. Now, I think we've covered some of the questions that we're seeing from the audience, in terms of integrating the next generation into leadership, within the company. Also, we had a great question from Jesus Oranday. What happens when an employee shows better aptitude than your daughter or son, for example? I mean, also tied to succession and, being objective about hiring someone else for the job. Has that happened to you already, or have you seen any other examples in Latin America? Because you're on mute, Simon.
Sorry. Let me jump in. Sorry, I wasn't muted. Attitude is the only thing that it's only yours. So your name and reputation is built by your actions, right? But your attitude is yours. You can define whether your attitude is positive or negative, period. And that's exactly what I tell my people every single day. Even my nephews, we have family meetings and I tell them, guys, you need to have a positive attitude, right? Whether you are the most capable leader for this company or not, you need to have a positive attitude. It costs a lot to build a family business. It takes decades, right, to build something strong for the next generation. Don't mess it up. You have a big responsibility. Learn how to take care of the family wealth. And it's not only by, spending money. Exactly the opposite. You need to understand how to save, how to invest, how to have a long-term vision, how to, get surrounded by people that are better than you, because you are the average of the 5 people you get surrounded with. So if you get surrounded by 5 people that love soccer, you will be the 6th. If you get surrounded by 5 people that they love art, you will be the 6th. If you get surrounded by 5 people that smoke weed, you will be the 6th, right? So listen, where do you want to be in the future? Look around you and get surrounded by people that can take you to the next level, that can inspire you, that can take you, to bring the family business, to a different stage. And that's exactly where we train our next generation to do it, because we started from scratch. In 1996, my father was totally bankrupt. He was in the textile business. He was totally, he went to bankruptcy because of 1994 crisis. Okay. And I decided to jump out of the family business and to start something different. I was brave enough to leave the family, even though they were telling me that I was, betraying them. And, my father was really mad at me. And suddenly the business, the international logistics business, started to grow. And in the end, my father closed his business in 2004, and I invited them, my two brothers and my father, to become shareholders of the family business now, which was not created by my father, was created by me, and to be together. That's a tough decision. How do you inherit your father or your brothers when you have three daughters, right? So it was tough. It was a tough decision. It was a very tough decision. But if I would have not do that in the past, I would have never been where we are. We would have never been where we are. This has been the most incredible decision of my life. To give up equity to my brothers and father and to tell them, hey, listen, we're stronger together, was the greatest decision I've taken in my life, in business life, of course.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, what happens when your family, daughters, sons, brothers, whatever, they don't have the skills or that passion? And Ramses is also asking, how do you transmit that passion? I mean, we have a lot of questions from the audience. Maria Jose and Rodolfo, please comment on this.
So I think it's a big challenge. One is you do have to understand that you have to prepare them, even if they don't want to operate, right? To be the shareholder, to be the inheritor, and maybe they don't manage the business. But in order to establish a clear succession line, you need to enamor them. I mean, sometimes in Mexico, we have far from sexy industries, right? Very traditional, but very successful businesses, heavy industry, that compete interests with more modern, innovative, digital, startup vibe type of businesses and companies. So believe it or not, I think there's a very important work to be done around this from the beginning, from the start. The new generations have a different DNA, and we need to also see that as an opportunity. How do we incorporate that DNA and make those heavy industries a lot sexier, right? A lot more digital, a lot more innovative, because that in itself will set you aside from other companies and will ensure your success long term. You need to evolve with the next generations. I think it's really important as well to get a mentor or somebody on the board that can accompany them, that have similar interests, to build that trust while the father or the mother or whoever is there, so that you can see that trust, you can ensure that trust is set, and you can make sure that the next generation is also aligned with this mentor or mentors that can accompany them throughout time. I think that's a very interesting strategy that I've seen done in one of the boards that I'm in, that has been very effective. And it's a challenge, but I think we need to see it as an opportunity as well.
Thank you, Maria Jose. Rodolfo.
On those 2 points, so basically there's two comments or different questions. One is easier to solve than the other in my mind, and the harder one is around passion, but I'll talk about that later. Starting with the first question on aptitude, the family member versus an outsider that shows a higher level of aptitude. One is, so in my mind, the way I would approach the subject, objectively, would be, okay, so can our family member be brought up to speed to the level of aptitude that is needed for the role? whatever the role is, and if the role is assigned to the capabilities that the strategy for the company needs. So if that's a no, then that's a sort of easier way on where to go. If that's a yes, then okay, that's great, because my main concern with an outsider would be that he's not wearing the shareholding hat, the ownership hat. So if you can find the level of alignment that would be akin to a shareholder or an owner, then you'd have an outsider that is wearing two hats, which is the same as your family member, by the way, has three hats: owner, family, and management. So that's how you would, again, and you guys are going to kill me, but I'm mentioning the circle model again, if you if you notice, but that's the way sort of I would approach this. And then that would be my main issue, is one, aptitude. Can our family member get there eventually via mentoring, training, etc. experience? And if not, then go the other way and see, okay, can we align the outsider to where he's wearing also not a family hat, but at least an ownership hat or a shareholder hat, where interests are aligned there. And then that would basically be a decision by either the sole decision maker or the board. And
Thank
passion,
you.
again, addressing the last question on passion, that is very tough to solve, because passion, you cannot teach passion. It's either, so that would be, and agreeing with Maria Jose's and Simon's comments on, well, you can try to transmit the passion that the family has for the family business, and or the owner, you can try to transmit that and convey that as best you can, but that's tough to teach.
But you can also pivot, not Rodolfo. You can also pivot, because in family businesses, we have something that it's priceless, which is wealth to invest in different businesses, right?
Absolutely.
They are passionate about something else. We need to pivot within the family businesses in order to achieve their goals and their dreams within the family values.
Yep.
Now, I believe that the main challenge that we have as a generation, like our generation, for sure, Maria Jose, you're much younger than me, but listen, how to transmit the next generation that they need to work hard, and they are only looking for immediate satisfaction. And that's exactly where I struggle. I struggle because they want to be CEOs within the next, let's say, 2 months of they graduate. So that's exactly what I struggle. Guys, we need to teach them how to work hard and long-term goals, because if not, that will be a struggle forever, because they want immediate satisfaction. They want a click, and they would like to be there in the main position within one click, and that's not possible.
Yeah.
Well, also,
yeah.
I was just going to add to that, and just thinking about studying human behavior and different generational gaps. And there is that younger generation that needs the instant gratification and satisfaction in what they're doing. I think as business leaders, what I've seen work well is, even when someone in the family is lower, Simone, to your point of working in the business, how do we connect that to the overall broader kind of strategy and what is happening in the business? And when you're able to do that effectively, it works out better than just putting them as a cog in the machine, per se. But if you're able to say what you're doing leads to this, and then it leads to this, it goes a lot longer of a way.
Thank you, David. Yes, and we are just about to conclude this conversation. I mean, time flew by. Thank you so much for your time, Maria Jose, Rodolfo, Simon, David. This has been really interesting and a lot of engagement from the audience. How about we close with final comments about purpose and succession? Of course, Maria Jose.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I think we all agree that communication is key. Succession and governance must be intentional. Early planning, professionalization, clear values are critical. good governance isn't about control. It's more about strategy, creating structure, allowing businesses to thrive across generations. And I just want to thank you all for this engaging discussion. I'm going to go read about the 3-circle model and Simon, I'm feeling very inspired by everything you're saying. So thank you so much for inviting us, Gerardo and David. It was truly a pleasure.
Thank you. Rodolfo?
Thank you so much. This was very engaging and insightful. And yeah, I mean, leveraging, there's a lot of strengths in a family business, and leveraging those strengths, I think, could be paramount for sustainability of the business going forward. And one, another common theme, I don't think we've mentioned thus far in a family is, well, actually, I think maybe Simone broached on it a little bit on empathy, but it's love, right? It's love, it's family, it's love. So if there's empathy, if there's love, then, open interest in communication, solving issues, then, you have the elements, workability around lots of the challenges that family businesses face, right? So, and it's not there's not a right sort of, process for that. It's sort of not a one size fits all. It's more of a tailored suit, as they say, which I think is totally correct. But with the right elements in place, I think every challenge can be surpassed.
Thank you. Simon?
Thank you, Gerardo, David, Rodolfo, and Maria Jose. It's been a great pleasure to be around you and surrounded by giants like you guys. So thank you so much. Picasso has a beautiful saying that says, your mission in life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. We need to give away our gift. And if we have built something, we have to transmit that passion and that attitude to the next generation. If we're not good at it, then our businesses, will fail and they will collapse. Guys, life is short. We have to enjoy while we work. You can be a high performer and have fun at the same time. High performance, it's totally opposite to laziness. High performance is totally opposite to comfort. We need to be out of our comfort zone. We need to fight and to work, but with a great attitude. Our country needs it. Our world needs it. We're in a world that it's totally destroyed by low values. We're in a world that needs more love, as you said, Rodolfo, correctly. We need more love. And the beginning of everything is the family. It's the most crucial part of, changing the world in the future. We need to fight and to work towards those values. So thank you so much for inviting me. I'm truly honored, and I look forward to keep connected with all of you and with the audience. So thank you very much, Gerardo, for putting this together. Thank you so much.
My deepest gratitude to all of you, to our audience. Muchas gracias. And yeah, we shall repeat this online or in person. That could be really interesting as well. Hopefully, either in Mexico City, Monterrey, or the US. Let's think about that. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.